What's good, all you YouTube and mother suckers? If you ain't familiar with who I am, I go by Lurchums The Gatekeeper, the King of Rhode Island, And we about to get into some real serious topics right now. We need to talk about that school shooting that took place in Texas. You know, I recently seen a veteran talking about how much money worth of artillery and weapons this kid actually had. And it's absolutely crazy when you really think about it. Like, I got a paper here. He had, from what I'm hearing now, I might be pronouncing some of the names of this shit wrong, but bear with me. He had a Semper Dynamics M4, which was like $1,200. He had a Daniels Defense M4, which was like $2,700. Every round he had with him was in magazines, and the amount of magazines he had equated to about $1,000 just for the magazines. Now, the rounds he was using were 5.56 rounds. Those are $1 a round. Anybody that knows weaponry, anybody that knows guns, bullets, all that, knows the 5.56 is about $1 a round. If they're using, there's another kind, I forget what it's called. It might be buckshot or black shot. If they're using those, they're even more expensive. So now you're looking at the 5.56 rounds, $1 a round. He had about 1,600 rounds on him. That's $1,600. The first M4, the Semfire M4 was $1,200. The Daniel Defense M4 is $2,700. $1,000 in just magazines, $1,600 in rounds. You know, he had a handgun probably worth between, depending on where you are, you can get them cheap on the block up here and shit, but obviously he had more new weapons, so he didn't buy his gun on the street. All right, so he had a handgun that was probably worth around $500-$600. On top of the rounds he had for that, the guy said like another $100. He had a placator with no plates in it, which I guess is, I'm gathering, like a bulletproof vest, but he didn't have the plates for it. That's a couple of $100. And what this soldier had said is, we're talking about a kid who was 18 years old, no job, no credit, and $9,000 worth of artillery. So now you got to start thinking along the lines is, who funded this? Because when things like this happen, we're talking about an 18-year-old kid who obviously didn't come from money. Okay, where did he get the $9,000 worth of this type of an arsenal to do what he did? You mean to tell me somebody didn't put the battery in his back? There wasn't somebody funding that mission? It's absolutely crazy to me that these things happen and we never dig into the past of these people and what their ties are and who was around them, mentoring them, doing all these other things. For instance, the other shooter whose parents went on the run afterwards, right? When his mother was telling him, don't do it, they bought him the weapon for his Christmas present or birthday and all that. And look at how quick they got jammed up and they're incarcerated, to my knowledge, right now. It's absolutely insane that we're not doing what we have to do to protect the children of our country. It's the people of color of our country. Like, it goes so much deeper than what you even imagine. Like, look what just took place in Buffalo. That Caucasian man drove out of his way to go to that community in Buffalo because it was inundated by people of color. Okay, and then from what I'm hearing, he ran up on a white person and apologized to them for almost shooting them. To me, that's just blasphemous. I grew up the only Caucasian person on my block my entire life, and never once was I ever worried about the people of color hurting me because I was a different color than them. Even though I was the only white guy on the block, they didn't pick on me because of my race. They didn't pick on me because of the color of my skin. They treated me just like they treated everybody else out there. If you was a goofball, you got treated like a goof. If you was solid, you got treated solid. But that's the difference, is when you're a white person surrounded by people of color versus being a person of color surrounded by all white people. It's a whole different tale altogether. And unless you've lived through it, you can't even speak on it. And I've lived through it, so I can speak on it. Okay? But we have to start digging into how these people are getting funding, how these kids, how this 18-year-old managed to scrape up $9,000 worth of artillery to go after a school, and all the warning signs were there and nobody stepped up, even though the climate of this country, you know, this has been going on for a long time now, and nobody did their due diligence and stepped up like the people that found out he was getting ready to do something and did nothing about it. I'm absolutely astonished. I cannot believe this is continuing to happen and we're not taking the simplest of solutions to try to fix it. If you want my opinion, the quickest way to stop these school shootings is to take our veterans with military experience, with deployment experience, men and women, and put 5 to 7 man teams at each school in the country. This will take care of a couple of problems that we're dealing with right now in this country. The biggest of which is these school shootings, and the other big problem is the fact that when our vets come home from these wars and these deployments, being part of a team, being around a certain camaraderie, and having a goal, when they come back to this country, they're lost. This is why after Vietnam, you've seen a lot of 1% motorcycle clubs that were created, because they needed brotherhood, they needed camaraderie, they needed that type of thing, because what they just went through, there was no way to integrate themselves back into society without taking the wounds that they carried during that war with them home. You know, so it's important that we take our vets that are looking for something to be a part of. You know, there's a lot of veterans that are out there, no job, no house, no nothing. Let's get these guys and girls set up, get them all their equipment, put them through weekly training things to keep them up on top of their game. And we need to put a 5 to 7 man and woman team at every school in this country. You have a couple of them that are stationed outside, like bird's nest, tree stands, whatever, just watching the school perimeter at all times, from the couple of hours before the kids get to school to a couple of hours after they leave. I'm going to tell you right now, you will see the school shootings drop down to single-digit numbers throughout the year, guaranteed. Guaranteed. If they just deploy our military to these schools. And I'm not talking about militarizing our streets and all this. The biggest problem we have now is they're over-militarizing our police department and doing nothing with our military that we already have trained, that we've already invested hundreds of thousands of hours, hundreds of thousands of dollars into training these people to be these type of men and women. And then when they come home from deployment, they're no longer needed, and that's the way it feels to them. Okay, so I'm going to tell you this right now. We do this and put a 5 to 7 man and woman team at every school in this country, and we have enough soldiers to do it. We have enough soldiers to do it that have combat experience, that have been in urban war zone type of environments. That's all we've been dealing with basically over the last couple of tours we've had to go through. Okay, so we need to start digging into how these cats are getting funding. Why is it so easy for them? And people think it's gun control. You got to stop the guns. You got to stop selling guns. No, the hell you don't. These guns are going to be out here no matter what. Like, anybody who knows anything could get a handgun in their hand in 5 minutes. And it's not because there's too many of them. The guns have been around since the existence of fucking society, and they ain't going nowhere. All right? It's crazy that these things happen, and then they use this as platforms to run on for elections and things like that. Nah, the guns got to stay, because the guns stop everyone's house from being run up into. Guns stop innocent people from being hurt all the fucking time, and more good is done with guns in these countries to protect families, businesses, elderly, and all that than bad is being done. But they only focus on the bad of it. So they try to make gun laws and all this other shit. It's ridiculous, man. Just take the tools that we already have and put them to use. We got these men and women that are combat trained, that have been deployed, that have dealt with it, and they are still mentally stable. What causes a lot of these vets to have mental instabilities is not having the cause anymore. They went into the military to have that cause, to fight on behalf of their flag, to fight for the freedoms that we all enjoy and take for granted. Now we need to start doing things to protect our babies and use the vets that we put through hell already to have a place to come when they come home and a purpose when they finish their deployment. Come back here and hold the local schools down. If I was tied into the military in any way, shape, or form, I would already have teams of guys and girls from all over my community watching these schools without being sanctioned, without being asked, and just show up and hold our babies down. There's enough of y'all out there that are legally able to own weapons, that are legally able to do the right thing, and I hopefully empower y'all to get up and start protecting these babies. You do not need to be told by the higher up, go down and keep an eye on your local school. It's important as parents, even outside of the military, we should all keep a diligent eye on what's going on with our babies in these schools. It's the most important commodity we have as human beings, is our children, because without our children, there is no future. Without our veterans, there is no safety. It's time we put the two things together, and we use the vets that we've trained and put through these hellish situations in war and all that to come back here on our home soil and start fighting for us now. We've put them in other countries for too long to fight for the rights and the well-being of other people. We put too much money into NATO, into all these other things to help other people. It's time we start helping at home. If we took half the money we put into other countries, we wouldn't have a homeless problem in Los Angeles, in New York, in fucking Seattle, in Rhode Island, all over the country. We wouldn't have these problems. We wouldn't have to worry about our babies. We wouldn't have to worry about our streets. It's time we start taking care of ourselves. So any vet out there, I encourage you to get together with your local vets around your area, start Facebook groups, start clubhouses, do whatever you got to do. The same way those vets did when they came home from Vietnam and they started those 1% clubs. Now we need to start starting clubs where we're going to start taking care of our schools, taking care of our babies, taking care of our senior citizens, our women, our children. You know that. We need to do this. It's long overdue. You know, I apologize for being so long-winded, but I had to get this off my chest. For those of you that don't know me on YouTube, I got a pretty decent following on TikTok. You can follow me at The Gatekeeper, King of RI. You can follow me at The Great Gatekeeper. You can follow me at TGK _ the Calhoun Clapper. That's another whole story, and that's all on TikTok. On Instagram, I'm at Lurchums, Lurchums. On Twitter, I'm at Lurchums, Lurchums. And on Facebook, you can find me at Adams Lurchums. Yes, with an A at the end, and with an S on the end of Adams, Adams Lurchums. Or you can find me at Lurchums on Facebook with a Z at the end instead of the S because somebody already snuck my name. But you know what it is, man. I hope this, makes people open their eyes and really think about it. I mean, think, man. This kid was 18 years old, had almost 10 stacks worth of weapons. How did he get it? No job, no credit. Somebody didn't fund this mission? Like, miss me with all that bullshit. You know what time it is. The Gatekeeper, the King of Rhode Island. I love you, YouTube and mother suckers. Let's go. We can fix this problem ourselves. Let's do it.